Good evening, everyone. This is Chris Griffin with the Horns Down News. Last week, we aired the first part of our series called How Many is Too Many? Well, this week, we continue that series with some familiar faces.
When a fella can't put in a hard day's work, put in 11, 12 hours a day, and then get in your truck and at least drink 1 or 2 beers.
They're making it laws where you can't drink when you want to. You have to wear a seatbelt when you're driving, and pretty soon we're going to be communist country.
Not to get into the legal side of it, but I thought really 2 or 3 beers or 4. I'm not justifying what Ollie did. I'm telling you what decision I made. Well, I thought I've probably done that 1,000 times in my life.
This clip is brought to you by the Horns Down News Network. Listen, people, listen. Another episode of the Horns Down podcast. I got my guys with me. Just wanted to drop that in there for y'all. You know what I'm saying? Just so y'all would know where we stand on that. You know, Boomer Sooner to everybody.
This one goes out to Coach Gundy.
Yeah, definitely. That one goes out to Coach Gundy. But hey, I got Jay with me. I got Jason with me. I got Coop with me. Little another thing for y'all. See y'all on the other side of the intro.
You know, there's a lot of great OU podcasts. But there's only one where the horns are always down. Ladies and gentlemen.
OU order. For life.
This is the Horns Down Podcast.
Strong, people. We starting off strong. As you can see, I got the NWO shirt on. Oklahoma only fears God. Listen, people, the SEC, we are officially in there. Y'all thought we was going to do a pod without acknowledging that? No, we can't do that. Better game times, better traditions, better opponents, better everything. Screw you, Big 12, and screw you, Brett Yomark. So, with that being said, we're going to go down the line before we get started. Jay, go ahead, tell everybody where they can find all your content at, and we'll keep going down the line.
You know where I'm at, Jay, Unfairsports. Find me here on YouTube as well as with a podcast to download and listen to. Thanks for having you, boy.
Hey, man. I don't think I've ever seen a stronger intro to anything ever than this one right here today. Well done. Well done, K. Chris. I love it.
Chris out here wilding, man.
Wilding. Jason Watkins, Hall of Fame college football. Man, I'm just happy to be here today. Thanks. My man.
Yeah, and I'm with Jay. I'm the janitor, and he doesn't know how to disconnect my my feed to the show, so he just lets me go instead of looking weird. And also I am a buffer for the Cox Communication pause, brought to you by Cox Communications.
This guy.
Nice. Well done.
Of course, you would throw some shade that way. All right. Gonna stab him in his kneecaps later. We'll go with that. Continue.
I don't know if you say it. I shared out our last show where Jay had a lot of bumps, and I tagged Cox Communications on it. So,
that's terrible. Yeah, they deserve it. Punks. Punks.
So with that being said, people, we got some stuff to talk about. A lot of stuff that's happening in OU, in and around OU. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and jump into it. Coop, we'll start with you. We're talking about the OU running back room tonight. What are your? Usually we would do a player focus and focus on one, but it's not necessarily a question mark, but it's a question of who steps up, who is the guy this year, because you're hearing things about Sawchuk. I think we're all really excited about Caleb Hicks, but Tatum is that guy. Sam Franklin is there. Javonte Barnes is still there. Are we going to have the same issues running the ball? Are we going to have the same issues with playing time for guys? But, you know, we'll go down the line, but Coop, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, honestly, what you want to see is, can somebody step up and be, you know, the man? And, you know, because they talk about quarterbacks and they say that, you know, if you got more than one quarterback, you ain't got one. And so I just think that with the running backs, like we've seen Sawchuk at the end of the season, if we get that guy all year long, then everybody else is gravy, because you got to think between, Javonte Barnes coming back. He says that he's healthy, fully mentally there now. Everybody loves Caleb Hicks. Like, he's the first to do it off the bus type of guy, and he's got the whole package, but does he have that extra gear and that home run threat? But man, the stuff that I'm hearing about Tatum in camp is suppressed enthusiasm, and he looks like that dude. So, and then Sam Franklin, how does he fit in? So I don't think that we're going to see the same stuff we saw last year with Levy hitting it out to Cowbell land. But what you want to see is who wants to take the role, who has that capability. And so if Sawchuk is healthy, that's where you put your money. But does Javonte feel that chip on his shoulder? Does X come in as a freshman and try to steal some time playing? Does Tatum actually show up on campus and get that Adrian Peterson feel? Because, in summer camp and in fall camp, everybody was already going, this is going to be hard to keep him off the field. So, and I want to see, obviously a lot that's going to have to do with the offensive line. There was a lot of movement on the offensive line last year. So someone to take over and be the man is what you want to see, but you got plenty of capable people, and somebody needs to be able to step up and do
it. Me next?
Well,
okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of it has to do with, you want to see Gavin Sawchuk finally show up and be healthy at the early part of the season, because you didn't see him getting a lot of touches last year. The year before that, you didn't see him until the bowl game. So to me, I would hope that you have a guy that steps in, becomes that kind of lead dog. From what you can see of Taylor Tatum, I think that he's that guy. If Gavin Sawchuk doesn't step in and be that guy immediately, this is the kind of kid that will be. He gives you, you keep hearing Josh McCuistion, talking about him along the same lines as, Joe Mixon, guys like that. If that's who that is, you can expect that he's probably going to make a big step right away. Athletically speaking, all you got to do is watch this film. He erases angles and eats up a lot of those little white lines really quickly. So to me, I think that it's a good opportunity to do that. I'm not as concerned about that offensive line. I know I've said that a bunch with to everybody in here. You look at it, you have more starts among guys that are there than any of the big boys. Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, Alabama. Not by a ton, but more. So, and you have Bill Bedenbaugh. So they're going to figure it out and find out whatever they're going to have to do in those first 4 games. I do think that, a lot of that is kind of overblown. I've been saying that a bunch. But to me, what I really want to see the most is, hey, Coach Murray needs to get it in there and make sure that you have the right mix going. And it just, some of the substitution patterns, I'd like to see them make a little more sense, That's just kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I think that for Murray, it's going to be big on finding the player that he feels like is truly ready to be that Bell caliber running back, right? And I understood some of the rotation pieces. Jason, you're right. That's kind of my biggest concern. With some of the season was like, why are we fully going into committee? But at the same time, your issue you ran into was Barnes was hurt, Sawchuk was dealing with that hammy, so you had no clue who was truly healthy, right? Tyree was doing well, but Tyree wasn't gonna, be your starting running back long term, right? I mean, he had his limitations in speed, really. He'd run through people and kill it short yards, and he'd get you some plays and stuff. He'd break open and get you 7 to 8 sometimes, but you needed to find that guy that was going to be that home run, and you couldn't get that. So I totally get the committee piece, but at the same time, I'm with you, Jason. You need to figure out who it's going to be. Of course, I think Sawchuk's number one. He had 700 yards, 7 straight 100-yard games. So he finished the season over 700 yards. 5 straight games over 100 yards, and he had 700 yards on the season. So you know that he's probably going to be your number one walking in. We'll see if Barnes is healthy. We'll see if what Caleb Hicks is made of. I think if you talk freshman, I agree. I think you'll probably see some Tatum early. Then that'll be kind of like set your baseline on what's going on. I'm sensing that Hicks is going to probably break out and get a little love. I like Sam Franklin a lot, but I don't know if he's going to end up really playing. I think the room may be a little bit more stacked, even though he comes in with 1,300 yards rushing last season. Could be a chance that he's just a special teams guy for now. And then he, possibly emerges depending on how the room looks health-wise. Still want to see if Megwa's got the health, right? I mean, he's had 3 knee surgeries, so everyone has their concerns. But at the same time, supposedly he looks good. I don't know. We'll see how healthy he is, but I think it's going to be Sawchuk leading it. I don't know if we're going to have a 1,000-yard rusher this year, but I could see us having multiple 700-yard rushers. So, in theory, you could get probably 2,000 yards in rushing with multiple running backs contributing. That's what it feels like. It feels like it's still going to be a committee, which may still be a good thing for what we're doing.
Man, so I'll jump in here and I'll say this right here. Now, I do agree with you, Jason. I think the offensive line is going to be better. Earlier this year, every one of you guys on this panel heard me say, hey, I think this is the time that for Beaton Bow especially to go into the SEC, and from game one, we know our 5. It's probably not going to be that way this year. I've come to that realization that it's not going to be like that, right? We have the guys to do it, but some of them don't necessarily have the game experience, right? So the whole thing is I still feel that, by the time we play Tennessee, everything will be fine. I think for me, running back wise, obviously gotta focus on Sawchuk first. I think Sawchuk is probably your clear number 1 right now. Tatum could creep up and take that by the Texas game, people. I mean, it's not out there. I mean, it's not like that's far-fetched. Hicks, really love Hicks. I think Hicks is not necessarily your change of pace back, but I think he's your back that at this point right now, until I see Tatum with my own eyes, I would say he may be the back in the room that fits this offense the most, or excuse me, a Seth Luttrell offense, a Seth Luttrell run game, simply because I think he's physical enough and he's got enough wiggle. He's physical, a little bit twitchy, can run through the tackles, has a bit of breakaway speed. I'm not going to say the guy is just like super fast, but what I will say is that watching Seth Luttrell's offense from North Carolina, watching film on North Texas, it's a very aggressive running game. I think it's even more aggressive than what in air quotes Levy was coined or as being, you know what I'm saying? So the whole thing is I think that he may fit it the best. Now that may change. That's subject to change. One of the biggest questions in that running back room is whether Javonte Bourne's vision is going to be better this year, because it seemed like from freshman year to sophomore year he did hit a wall, literally, right? Mm-hmm. So Sam Franklin is another guy that could probably come in there and steal reps. He's a solid back. To me, I think he's and Coop may disagree with this, but I think he's exactly what you had in Tawee last year. Just maybe a little bit smaller or so.
Maybe a little more homer and hitter in him, though.
You said what?
Maybe a little more homer and hitter in him, though.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I just think he's a hard-nosed back. He runs hard. It's not like he does. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's a great running back, but from the film I've watched, it's not like he's doing anything that's really bad out there, right? He's just a solid running back that you can count on. So I think he's a solid rotational piece in that lineup. But I mean, the keys are who wins that RB2 battle out of Barnes and Hicks, right? And if Tatum is what he's, all that everybody is saying that he is, and he lives up to the hype, then is he your clear number 1, or is he at least in that rotation? So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with the running back room. But I just hope that, it's not as bipolar as it was with playing time this year.
Yeah, and I don't think that you can, really play down the lack of the offense change. I think that with when you saw Luttrell at North Carolina, I mean, they ran the ball. They ran the ball pretty well. They almost had 2,000-yard receivers. I mean, running backs, and so that's going to be you're not going to be doing all these all these RPOs that this year. It's going to be, you're going to see some RPO, but I think that had a huge issue too with the syncability between the running backs and the offensive line. So I think that's a big piece that we'll see this year when you have a more understanding idea. The offensive line knows exactly what's happening, because that's hard. You got to be a very, very cerebral offensive lineman to go out there on those RPOs and do two jobs at once.
I think you're probably going to still see a lot of RPO. When he was at North Carolina, But when he was at North Carolina, Marquise Williams at quarterback threw for over 3,000 yards and rushed for over 700 for 2 years in a row, right? So I'm sensing they're going to potentially leverage Jackson Arnold's ability to move and do that. And I guess the big thing for me, and we talked about this on SEC Connect the other night, the one fear some of the Texas guys talked about with Jackson Arnold was they hope that he doesn't go out there and play like a gosh, what's the kid's name? Brain fart at the moment, but try to run everybody over, right? It's like, you can't be out there trying to truck everybody. And I hope Jackson recognizes that no, you don't need to be running people over. Go run out of bounds. It's okay. Slide. Please. There's nothing wrong with that this year. Do that. Next year, sure. We'll have Michael Hawkins really up to speed at that point, so he won't have as much fear on a reserve. But nah, bruh, hit the slide button. It's okay. We are just fine with you sliding and not getting yourself hurt. But I do still anticipate seeing a little bit more RPO just because of Jackson Arnold's dual threat capabilities. But I agree with you though, Coop. I sense a lot of run, but I don't see us getting 1,000-yard rusher, only because I do feel like it's still going to be committee wise, just because it's the SEC and they're going to make sure they got bodies if we make a deep run. Now, I think if it leads into, if we need to run a particular back as a bell cow because we're winning the games, we probably will do that. I can totally see us still switching it up in certain games, saying, all right, we're going to run with this dude and keep this guy healthy because we want him for Bama and LSU or Missouri. We'd rather this guy go against Ole Miss. You know what I'm saying? That's the strategy I sense potentially is going to show up.
Well, I would kind of mirror what Hank had to say in here. Is I hope that whoever the hot hand is, that they continue.
Yeah.
That was what I was talking about more than anything. Is a lot of times it just didn't seem like you had really a rhyme or reason for what you were doing. Sometimes I think back to the Oklahoma State game, Sawchuk was in. He was doing great. He had just broken off of a 50-yard run. And next thing you know, you've got Barnes in the backfield taking a direct snap, and he hadn't been in the game in a month. Odd. It's just weird to me, So
rhyme or reason, I get you.
You want to see DeMarco kind of really having something to do. There's got to be a reason for what you're doing, and you have to have some kind of goal. And I think that was really, for all of us, I think we've talked about it a lot. That was part of the issue that we had with Jeff Lebby, is that a lot of things didn't seem to have rhyme or reason to them, when it all boiled down to it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Looking at this comment from Steven Stegall, Stason Stegall, excuse me.
Stason.
Which running back do y'all think is the most complete, well-rounded? I'll let the panel answer that. I think I've kind of given my answer already in Caleb Higgs.
Taylor Tatum. Yeah, I think that he's the guy that can do everything. You can line him up wherever you want. He can run, throw, and catch. That's Boobie Miles.
When I hear well-rounded, Jay, you and I have talked about this quite a bit. It is, you got to know the play, and you got to be able to do you got to pass protect. And I'm hoping to see more passing game to the running backs this year too. So unfortunately, I don't think, without a shadow of a doubt, running, knowledge of the play system, receiving, blocking, nobody has shown that yet. So that is that is completely fair. Now, Sawchuk is probably the guy who has shown the most of those, but that's one of the big reasons why we saw somebody, was Javonte Barnes and Sawchuk would lead a game in rushing, and then the next week see the ball 4 times. Like that's where I want these guys to step up. It's so that they earn it in practice, and DeMarco can go, listen, I know that I'm going to trust them. So I'd like to see multiple of these guys. Now, who do I think has the most talent and by the end of the year could do that? I mean, hell yeah, I'd love Tatum to do it. But I'd love Tatum to be fighting with a hot streak off of Caleb Hicks or Sawchuk or Javonte, because I mean Javonte has shown us a lot prior to last year.
That's a fair point. I say the most complete. So Jason, you're saying I'm
saying
Tatum.
Potential wise, I think more than anything else, it's Taylor. You can even see, you've seen him throw the ball, you've seen him catch the ball out of the backfield a lot. They used him in every way possible. There is where I was getting at.
No, that's a fair point. They did. You're right. He was used as everything. And I mean, he's a. I'm not sure how many tool baseball player he is, but he's a baseball player that it's coveted. So I'd say I may have to agree with you there, Coop, on the Sawchuk piece. I thought Barnes was going to be that, especially with his size, but I got to see him healthy, right? I mean, he got 100 yards against that really good Florida State defense. Sure enough. I got to see him healthy for a season. If I see him healthy for a season, I think he has the capabilities of being more of your complete back, while Sawchuk's your speed guy. And we got to see him also catch out of the backfield a little bit more. Surprised we didn't do that much last year, but we instead had G Freaky do all the jet sweeps. But I digress. I'm wondering if Barnes can be that complete back. I think Tatum has the highest ceiling of anybody in the room right now. Oh, so yeah, I think Tatum is probably going to end up being that complete dude, but I think Barnes should be, right? He should be the one.
This kind of feels like when we brought, oh gosh, I just had a brain fart too. When we had Kennedy Brooks coming off of his COVID year and Tennessee Eric Gray, and we tried to force Eric Gray as the starting running back, and then Kennedy Brooks just came back and was Kennedy Brooks again. That's kind of how I feel this year is, hey, let's put these guys out there. We got 4 warm-ups. Let's put them out there and see who does what, because I think when Tennessee rolls around, you want to know who 1, 2, and 3 is. And is it 1A, 1B, and then a 2? But I just don't know if you're we haven't seen Caleb Hicks do anything. Javonte seemed that he didn't, he wanted to make too many moves at once and just didn't do much of all. So he would run and truck over guys, and it just didn't seem like he had wiggle. And last year, it just seemed like he was super hesitant. So, are these guys making that first man miss is kind of what I'm trying to get to, because I think that's going to be a big difference for, when you're in SEC, because if you let the first guy that touches you take you down, I mean, that really, really hurts your offense.
That's a fair point.
Let's see. Sean Riddell, he says last few years would say it's been a running back issue or run blocking issue, while OU hasn't been getting 200-yard rushing. I guess 200 yards rushing a game. I mean, let's be real. I think that at some point OU fans will thank Levy for the sustainability. I think that's a good word for his tenure here, sustainability. Because I mean, numbers wise, it was good, but like I say, I always go back whenever I talk about Landry Jones, people know exactly what I'm gonna say. Gaudy numbers, great numbers, but where's the impact? Where's that behind it, right? But I mean, I would kind of blame it on that. Just Levy's not even a play calling at times, just a poor game management at times. There's certain things that could happen. There's a lot of momentum or whatever, but for whatever reason, we're killing Texas. We got Texas on the ropes. We got Texas basically running, going for it on 4th down every 5 minutes. Then boom, we keep giving up those big plays, and then finally get the ball. We're about to kick the ball punt it. Excuse me, I can't talk tonight. We're about to punt the ball away, and then boom, what? They get a block punt in the end zone, touchdown. I mean, it's just a whole bunch of things. And I know that that's not necessarily affecting all of the run game, but it's just, I don't know. It just seemed like we were up, we were down, we were down, we were up. And sometimes you didn't know. You were on pins and needles on some drives, just how it was going to go, because the play calling was kind of all over the place.
No rhyme or reason. No rhyme or reason, right? It was just a lot of times you just didn't know what the goal was.
Yeah.
But from game to game, and it's not just score touchdowns or do this or do that. If you don't have a clear goal, and I think most of us have seen enough football, played enough football, whatever, to know that there should be something that you can see that they're trying to establish from game to game, and you really didn't know what that was from one week to the next.
And let's not get it twisted. Javonte was hurt almost all year.
He was.
Sawchuck had a hammy. So we're turning into a walk-on running back who was not dynamic. That guy was good in a phone booth. He was great for the Steelers in the 80s. Tolly Walker would have been a great Steelers running back in the 80s. And so you're turning to your third-string running back who is a walk-on. Like, it's not that Oklahoma doesn't have absolute studs. I think there's 4 or 5 of them. I think that we're all on the same page. You want to see somebody go, like, let's take it to the next level. And let's make everybody chase me. So I'm going to do everything crisp and clean in practice, and I'm going to stay healthy. And also, there was a lot of whispers of, not playing through some of that pain. But, I mean, if you've ever pulled your hammy and try to continue to do stuff, I mean, last night I was like scratching my leg in bed, and I couldn't walk this morning. So, I mean, you mess up your hammy, that OLD is acting up again. So we got the cats. It's just, do they take that next step to become game breakers and game changers?
All right, before we move on to the next topic, Coop, you had a great interview today, sir. Go ahead, plug it, man. Tell them.
Yeah. So, obviously I saw Floyd Boucard drop his graphic on his Final Four and his commitment for the 20th, and we had I had a funeral with the family, and I was out of town this past week, went 4th of July, so I caught back up to it with him, and I was like, man, if you want to hook up, I'd love to do it. If you got any time before you commit or afterwards. And so he was in the airport heading back to Miami to home, and so he said, well, let's do it now. And so man, great kid. He has been an absolute stud. Just to talk to. He is, he's Haitian background, was up in Canada, moved down to Miami, really was playing hockey and soccer. And so, he kept it pretty close to the vest, and, didn't want to show his hand. So right now, a lot of people feel good about Oklahoma, feel good where he's wanting some of the stuff that he was saying. There were a couple BV type of lines that he said on camera and a couple off of camera. So, I mean, he wants to go somewhere where he can be the man and develop. And, he wants to take care. He came from a family that didn't have a lot of means. And so he wants to be he wants to take care of his family. And we had a conversation off the mic. And so Floyd, if you see this and you get mad at me, fight Jason, not me. But
this guy,
I'm faster. I'm faster still. But no, he asked me, because we talked about, me taking care of my mom and, being a provider for some of my family members. And that was our real talk. And so, I mean, those types of things, it's just another good guy that, like, you see why this staff goes after him. Leaders, men who are hungry and they want to do some damage. So if you get it, go check it out. Jay, it's on, is it sooner or later, or is it on Unfairsports?
Sooner or later.
Sooner or later. So go check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody go check it out. Go check it out. So with that being said, let's keep it moving. Concerns for OU this year. Okay. Jimmy Satterfield, SEC Unfiltered, has OU picked 11th in the SEC this year. Shout out to Jimmy, always showing up and showing out. The Hog Wild podcast. Wait a minute.
SEC Mo right there. SEC.
Yeah, is that Arkansas or is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Y'all gotta get Brent Venables further up the coaching list, fellas. He's down there with the likes of Sam Pittman. Okay.
I love a self-aware sports fan. You get my respect.
So with that being said, Jay, Jay, we'll start with you. We talked about it behind the green screen. What concerns do you have for this team this year? Outside of maybe the offensive line things we talked about, we've talked about expectations this year, but what are like any other like oddball concerns that you have for us going into the SEC or just this team in general?
So I like the way Ty said this when we were talking on SEC Connect, and why he respects the group that was there, and also why I respect this group. We don't have concerns. We have questions, right? We recognize the dynamic of the coaches that we're dealing with, our fanship, and I don't have actual concerns. I do have questions. I'm curious about how things will play out with certain people. So, like, first off, the first one that really jumped out to me is Jackson Arnold. He's coming in as a true sophomore, one true start, played about 4 games, right? 5 games, played 5 games in the season, and he had 1 true start. So for me, well, actually that's 6 because I think he had 5 because of the injury. So give or take 6 total games. He's a true sophomore. My question I have about him is, and it leads back to that kind of conversation the Texas guy said about him was, and I figured out the player I was thinking about. The player that I comped and saw that Jackson Arnold could be for us is Drake May, right? Drake May in North Carolina was a monster as a redshirt freshman, right? That's when he came on the scene and everybody's like, oh, who is this guy, right? Everybody's mouth watered watching that kid play. Sure, Drake May was a monster, but we didn't expect it. Redshirt sophomore, a redshirt freshman, come out of nowhere, boom, now he's in the limelight. Drake May had one problem, though. Drake May tried to run people over all the time.
Yeah.
And that led him into a little trouble every once in a while. So what I'm curious about, and what I question is the way that Jackson Arnold handles the pressure of being smart, right? I expect him to take risks. I expect him to throw deep interceptions, which will be considered punts. And I sense that he's going to be I see a double-digit interception season out of him. That won't bother me because I know that means that he's pushing the ball and he's really challenging the other teams. I'm cool with that. I'm just curious about him being smart enough to not try to be Superman. That's where my question lies with Jackson Arnold. Can he go out there and realize I ain't supposed to be Superman? The only other question I have is the tackles. Now, I've already said, the Jakes are going to be your bookends. Mm-hmm. Curious to what looks behind them. Does the veteran step up and they take it? Or do we see a freshman pull up and get it? That's what my question. I don't have concerns because I think everything's going to come in line like it's supposed to. Those are my questions for it.
Yeah, and I don't think that you have a huge concern as far as Jackson Arnold and his progression, right? It's more or less, is he, because of and the reason that I say that is, I know that the narrative out there is the offensive line. It's, whether they're going to gel, it's new, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we know that. Probably the least thing that I worry about coming into this season is the offense. This is Oklahoma, fellas. This is Oklahoma.
Fair.
And I mean, you've got probably a top 2 or 3 receiving room in the country. You've got we just got done talking about the running back room that has depth. We don't even really know who's going to be the guy in there because there's any number of 5 of them that could really step in and be that guy. That being said, I would tell you that, I think Chicken's right. What I loved about J.A. in the spring game was that he didn't try to get out of the pocket and leave so much. He had very good pocket presence, and you saw him throw the football away rather than trying to do fitting balls into places that you didn't. That's a good step forward after what you saw in the bowl game. My other part would be that I know that, everybody would freak out about having to play a freshman or say, as Des was talking about in there, Casey. I don't know that if you got to put Casey in, he's had a ton of experience. And if he's able to go in, I know everybody's going to laugh that I'm the one saying this, but if he has to go in, you would expect that he's going to be able to step in and not be freaked out. If he goes in an emergency situation, break glass, Casey comes out. I would also tell you that when it comes to the true freshman that you're talking about, Des, I really like that guy. He can throw, he can run. This is a guy that, yes, he's a freshman, but he's got skill sets that not a lot of guys have to be able to step in and be. It's going to be hard for the other team to adjust to because they don't have any film on. I would feel good about that. In the end, I don't really concern myself with the offense at all anyway. As we talked about, Bill Bedenbaugh is the best offensive line coach in the country. He's got the skins on the wall to prove it when it comes to guys in the league. They have a lot of starts, a lot of experience in that line, and they also have a bunch of guys that you may not have heard their name yet, but there's a reason why Bill Bedenbaugh went and got those guys in recruiting in the last few years is because he believes in them. We've seen good things out of guys, the younger guys like Heath Ozida and obviously Joshua Bates and some of these other kids. I believe they're ready to kind of step up and do what they have to do. The concern is, or I don't even know that I make this a concern so much because this is year 3, but what we need is to see that next step from the defense. If that happens, now you're talking about being able to probably, contend for a trip to the college football playoff in year 1 of SEC play. If your defense is top 3 in the SEC, that's my thoughts.
I'm a jump in here real quick.
Go for it. Go for it.
We got this super chat, Jason. It says Gabriel Sorato says,
shout
love
out
you
to
guys.
you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it says, love you guys. OU all day. Big question. We know SEC will be close games. Do we have the kicker to close it out and get the W? Now, personally, this is right on par with what I was about to say. Special teams. Because special teams sucked last year. I'm sorry. Kicking game was sporadic. RIPG Freaky, I hope you go and do your thing over there. down, I was saying up there in Stillwater. I hope you go do your thing. But no, special teams, man. I mean, that's you win some, you can lose you some. And I feel like we're sneaky. We could be sneaky good. We could be dangerous in the special teams that you seen point out the Iowa State play on the field, the fake field goal. A couple of these fake punts and different things like that. Venables and company have played it beautifully when it comes to that stuff when the referees don't try to screw us. But regardless, what I'm trying to say is that special teams could be kind of a thorn in our side because it's been a thorn in our side for the longest. I know a lot of people have been asking us, jokingly, hey, would one of you guys do an episode about special teams? Would one of you guys talk about, do we have the kickers? Do we have the punters? Does anybody know on this panel if we're going to be okay on the special teams? Not necessarily punt returner, kickoff returner, because I feel like we got guys who are going to be good. If they put Farouk back there, just hope he holds on to the football. Regardless, I just, as far as kicking, punting, different things like that, have we cleaned that up enough to go into the SEC and be able to, feel confident about it?
So my thoughts on that is we picked up Doug Deacon for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? Doug Deacon, our special teams coordinator, he came from Arizona State, one of the most efficient special teams in college football. Number 2 in 2022. 2023, they were number 9 in the country in efficiency in the kicking. We good. He's going to put the best kicker out there. He's going to help them with the yips, get them going and kicking it right. That's what he does, right? The punt god, everybody's favorite dude, the punt god, was it Matt Ariza? Mm-hmm. Came from Arizona State. This guy found him, right? We're going to be fine. And Doug was at at San Diego State for almost 20 years, if not more, right? He's been dedicated to the craft of special teams for a while, and BV is very excited about it. Like, he's very high on him. So am I. BV has a belief in you. He's synced it on multiple fronts. He knows what you got to have. I anticipate we'll be just fine. No concerns. And we brought in like 3 kickers, so we got some good competition. Somebody's going to come out and stand out.
Well, and there was something weird. Go ahead, Coop. Yeah, say.
I was going to say, as long as there's not anybody kicking entrees, I'm okay with it. So just let's stay away from that. Plus, I think every special teams player gets their own special teams analyst now. So You're going to have people who their whole commitment is, that there's going to be an analyst studying punts. But no, I will say I agree with Jay when he said concerns. Like, I don't have a concern on this team. I want to see, like, Beatonbow has his work cut out for him. Is who's my top 5? Because on the bookends, you've got Tarquin, you've got Sexy, you've got Taylor, you've got Gary and Hatchett, who now is full on healthy, and he's a guy that can go pretty much anywhere you want to put him. Isaiah Autry-Dent. If you guys do not know about Isaiah Autry, the freshman, just please believe us when we tell you this guy is. His coach Dent his dad sent us the same picture, Jay, of him standing next to EPL. EPL looked like G Freaky standing next to Isaiah Autry, and EPL is huge. So Isaiah Autry, his dad is a coach. His dad played offensive lineman with Steve McNair at Alcorn State. His mom played under Pat Summitt at Tennessee. So the athleticism's there, and he's been mentally preparing him. So watch that, because I think Isaiah is going to be on the field a good amount this year. But it's just finding that chemistry. That typically has been the situation that's what I want to see, is how do we get that chemistry? Because I think at the guard position, at the center position, we're gravy. Like, we don't have to worry about that. The other thing is Jackson Arnold. Jackson, you have the most weapons of pretty much anybody in the country around you. You do not need anything. You don't need to be Superman. You take what you can get, because again, it's, you don't need to be Jalen Hurts. You don't need to go out there and try to hit 1,000 yards rushing by yourself. You need to take what you can, go up, hit the slide, and be good to go. Outside of that, it is the zone defense. We've got the players like Des Malone, Gentry Williams' health. It's that, because I think that this team is now set up from top to bottom that you've got, and here it is, you've got competitive depth. So there's no need to worry about that. You don't have a second tier of players that you're going, sweet Jesus, I don't care if your neck breaks, you got to go out there and play for us. Like, we've got a good amount of players. So it's going into the SEC. If we move into the SEC, how do these guys close out games? Because if you don't go out and you don't close out a team, it'll come back and bite you. So it is going with that killer mentality. And I think this team's got the mindset to actually do it, because we've seen what happens when you don't put teams away. But on defense, up the middle, guys, I don't know if you can find a better collection up the middle on a defense anywhere else in the country. And I'm talking about John Terry and Dominic Williams up the middle, Stutzman, Kip Lewis, Kanik, whatever collection that is, Bowman, RSJ, and Bowen. Like, there's not a better collection in college football right now, right there. Now, the D ends and the corners, those guys, if those guys play at a high level, this defense has a chance to put some crazy numbers up. So all Jackson needs to go out there to do is just get us to the next down. Again, if you, Jay, you said it right. If you can bomb the ball downfield, on 3rd and 8, and you give up an interception after 50 yards in the air trying to go to Burks, I mean, it's not what we're wanting, and we don't want to see it 18 times in a season, but that's okay. The talent across the board, and especially with Andrell Anthony coming back late in the season, in the middle of the season too, you add weapons in the middle of the season. So it's time to prove it. It's time to put up or shut up. We wanted this big boy conference. We wanted these big boy games, and we got the big boy schedule. So everything's in front of you. You are going to do what you put in.
Coop, I got a bonus one for you, okay? Because
bonus me.
Everybody on here is uber confident in this team, okay? But the question remains: are you guys nervous about running a cover 3 in the SEC? We haven't been able to run it this entire time, man. Zone defenses seem to be the one thing that this defense can't do well. So you feel like bringing guys like Des Malone, and guys like that who've actually played and kind of, zone heavy looks, right? Or places, you feel like, hey, that should be a strong suit of his, but does that, go over well with the rest of the defense? Are we going to be better? I mean, mainly in our zone coverages, it's mainly the linebackers. Do you think that's fixed this year?
So from what we understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, Mechanic, the light bulb moment, Jay was calling this. He said Stutzman in year 2 as the full-time starter, he saw the light and it all clicked. And we thought he got cheated for the butt kiss last year. Mechanic has been playing linebacker a lot less time than Stutzman has. And so we're starting to hear that his light is clicking. But if it doesn't, you still got Kip Lewis, Kobe McKenzie, you got Lewis Carter. Pichotti is now healthy and back in. So you've got those capabilities. So that linebacker, that is it. And I would say that zone coverage, that interception that Gentry got in Texas, that happened because of the exact coverage that Kanak was supposed to drop. And that made Quinn double pump. And that's why Gentry got that, because he had to double clutch, because we did the correct drop. And so you're talking about, like, when we have these posts and when we have these outs that are, 12, 15 yards deep, we got the safety sinking too far and we got the linebackers not sinking far enough. Mm-hmm. And if you don't sink far enough back as a linebacker, now the quarterback can put it on a line to the receiver, and the safety doesn't have time to get there. If he sinks back, you got to loop it up and over. Now you've got a jump ball with Billy Bowman head on. So it does come down to that.
You saw that exactly what you described as it, guys. If you want to see a perfect illustration of that, go watch the Florida State game. Go watch when we played them in that bowl game. You saw guys, Jay, I kept screaming, cloud coverage, clouds. You got to play your clouds right. Your clouds are not adjusted right. You're not doing what you need to do. Because I felt like guys were sinking way too far back. And I'm like, you can't do that, because they're not trying to hit the home run. They want to play backyard football. They are more, and I know we're going off on a tangent on Florida State right now, but Florida State is the most dangerous. Last 2 years, they've been the most dangerous whenever the play breaks now, not when they actually run the play, right? So, I think we will be better, man. More experience, year 3, the system, all the rest of that, yada, yada, yada. So moving on, people, the last topic we're going to talk about is this revenue sharing. We just hired a former.
Hey, before you get to
go ahead.
USC. I'm sorry. SEC Mo had a question here for Hall Wild podcast. I think is a good one to jump into before revenue sharing, about the concerns about the schedules, the way the schedule's laid out.
Go ahead, Jay. Start that.
So the question here lies: do y'all have any concerns about the way your schedule lays out? It seems that every OU fan I interact with gives 0 Fs about how tough y'all schedule is. Do I have concerns about it? No, I have questions, and this is the reason why I have those questions. The way it's laid out, it only gets hard in November. Like, legitimately, right? We have the perfect spots for breaks. Heck, before Alabama, we got Maine. Bama has a bye. We got Maine. So we technically got a bye too, right? Yeah. You can play the second string and probably dominate. Bama and LSU back-to-back, yeah, that's tough. That's if I would say concern, that would be my concern, because it's end of the season. And by then, we'll know who they are. Either they're going to be good or not. Mm-hmm. Beginning, though, Tennessee, Auburn, think it's solid. Perfect bye week. Head to Texas. What makes it tough for Texas is Texas has us, then Georgia. They're the 2 most physical games of the season. Back to back. That's where you're going to see, you know what I'm saying? That's where I can see a concern for Texas is. It's like, dog, you got your 2 most physical games. One team that y'all hate each other on, and the other one is Georgia. So, which one do you feel is going to be more physical? Ours is laid out in a good way to where we have the breaks where we really need them to be, to where it'll be more optimal. So that's the only reason why the schedule games are going to be tough. I don't see it as concerns, because they did give us the right spots for our buffers. I feel like our 3 bye weeks are optimal. Right? I mean, like, I know it's technically 2, but Maine is a bye week. So the three bye weeks are really solid buffers. That's the only reason why I don't have that type of concern. Pass to the panel.
Yeah,
Cool.
Same thing. I got to roll here in a few, but I agree with Jay. And let's, we also like Ole Miss. What is that game going to be? Missouri. What is that game going to be? Because there's a lot of questions. Alabama. What is that game going to be? LSU. What is that? I mean, if you're taking Nick Saban, Alabama from year after year after year, yes, but you can't switch coaching staffs after a legendary coaching staff and everything just smooth sailing. There is going to be adjustment period. And so when Jay's saying what you're saying is, there is a good, a November schedule, and that's when the toughest piece is going to be coming at you. We'll know who LSU is. I expect Alabama to be still tough. I expect OU to probably lose a game somewhere that we kind of didn't see coming. But we don't have to go undefeated or lose one game in order to have a successful season. I mean, Vegas put the line at 7.5. A lot of these SEC, and I'm saying SEC, just guys, they're not talking to anybody. They're just going off of, well, I remember LSU dominating Oklahoma the last time we played them. That's a different team, like absolutely different team. and that LSU was a completely that was one of the best teams of all time.
Yeah,
it was one of the best teams of all time. You have the top wide receiver in the NFL, and you have two other great wide receivers. So that was a different year, and we had Bookie and Justin Broyles. That's all I got to say right there. So I really do think that what Jay is saying is right, is you have that capability to take your schedule in chunks. And so when you have that early part of the season, you can get yourself some momentum. Nico is going to show up in Norman, and that's going to be the toughest defense he's ever seen. And it's going to be in the crib, and it's going to be hype. And so if Nico has anything off, that's going to be a tough day for him. And Brent Venables is going to be, he's going to be going crazy because he's going to run these blitzes from absolutely everything. And at this point, Oklahoma is facing their defense that Jackson Arnold is facing. Jay brings it up all the time is when Sam Bradford was going against the BV defense, way back in the day. I mean, you're going against the absolute toughest defense that you're going to play all year.
Yep.
Is there going to be potentially other defense in the SEC that's going to be better than Oklahoma? Sure. Yeah. But this is not us with the ballerina dancing defensive, performance that we've had in the past. So OU can go 10-2 and have an absolute stellar season.
Yeah. I would add, just add
you need to go ahead and bounce.
Yeah. I'm going to bounce, guys. So I appreciate you all.
Appreciate you for coming on, bro.
Appreciate it.
Don't drink and drive.
Go ahead, Jason.
No, I was just going to say, and they're kind of bringing it up in the chat anyway about everybody around the SEC being so kind of triggered by what you heard from Teddy Lehman yesterday. And I would kind of echo what he's saying. I actually had this conversation with Cody from High Top Sports earlier today. Nobody's saying that Oklahoma is going to come in and dominate this league. What we're saying is that all of these things that are being said from throughout the league, particularly and mostly from these fans of schools like Ole Miss or Missouri or wherever that doesn't include, Georgia or Alabama, you're hearing a lot of these things, all these quote questions and whether or not they're going to be good enough. And this isn't the Big 12 and blah, 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 blah. I believe what Teddy was saying more than anything was, you get to adjust to Oklahoma as much as Oklahoma has to adjust to you. There's not any way. I mean, don't get it twisted and think that there's ever going to be a time that Oklahoma is afraid of anybody either, because they're not. OU has the history, and you know what? If nothing else, it's pride coming. If you play for the Crimson and Cream, your job is to go win every football game. No excuses. Go do it. So don't excuse us if we're not coming in here being so freaked out about playing against this SEC program and teams like Mizzou and Ole Miss that still haven't done anything yet. And for that matter, Tennessee hadn't really done anything yet either. They got a win over Alabama a couple of years ago at home in a great game. What did they do after that? They lost a couple of games down the stretch that kept them out of the national championship game. So, and you know, forgive me if I'm not quaking in my boots over here about going through an SEC schedule full of teams that haven't proven anything either.
Jason, as we've said time and time again, everybody on this panel has said it in some form or some way. This 2024 season, coming into this 2024 season in the SEC, you knew there were going to be a bunch of teams hitting that restart button. Would you have told me that Bama was going to basically do a restart button with a really good coach, a damn good coach? But if you would have told me that coach wouldn't have been Nick Saban, I would have been like, you lying, right? As Nick would say, child, please. But no, I mean, you got guys that are going to be first-time, quarterbacks. I mean, hell, look at Kentucky. Kentucky starting all the way over with Brock Vandagriff. There's been a bunch of teams that's lost a lot. Texas just lost 11 guys to the NFL. 11 guys, that they feel like they can replace.
No questions there, right? No questions there.
Yeah, Texas A&M is a huge question mark for a lot of people, but you kind of have to give the nod and the trust to Elko. I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios out there. Can Kiffin finally get it done? Can he get over the hump and get into a play? I mean, it's so many questions out there, so many narratives, so many storylines. That's what the word I'm trying to use. That's so many storylines out there in the SEC that's just like, I don't really know what we're getting into, because somebody's got to suck. I don't think it's going to be OU, but somebody has to be the bottom feeder. Hell, you never know. Vandy may make a playoff this year. The SEC is the vaunted SEC, right? It's not. The schedule is on paper is tough. But when we finally play these games and there's going to be injuries, there's going to be all types of stuff, people still trying to figure things out. Gotta let that ball roll a little bit. And you got some good tests. I want to see Tennessee against North Carolina State. I want to see LSU against Lincoln Riley early in the year, because we all know Lincoln Riley early in the year is going to have the same playbook, but a bunch of wrinkles in there and some trick plays to where he's going to try to take your head off real quick, right? So, I mean, there's some questions that need to be answered, but no, I feel good coming into the SEC. I feel great, but I think that's a really mature take that you have as far as just saying like, hey, look, we didn't say we're going to come in here and dominate. We just said we're going to come in here and win, right?
Yeah, we're going to come in here and play. That's the thing.
Yeah, compete. That's the thing.
Hold on,
really. So, yeah.
Let's see. You guys keep going.
Yeah, and that's go ahead.
Shout out Stinkcast. That's what I was trying to say. Shout out Stink-ass cat.
Yeah, that's my whole thing with it, is that it's the key thing is that the overlooking of Oklahoma just competing against the other teams is just baffling. I mean, we've played teams when they were mid-tier. For example, like I know we go back pretty far the last time we played an SEC team or even Ohio State, right? And a Big Ten team. But, well, I guess Nebraska technically counts, but I digress. When we played Tennessee, that was an 8-4, 9-3 Tennessee team, right? The only teams they were losing to were the Georgias and the Bamas of the world, right? Yeah. I think they lost to LSU potentially. But they were bowl winning teams, right? Butch Jones did very well in those teams that had Josh Dobbs throwing the ball. We did fine. We actually won both games.
We did.
And that was when we didn't have, that good. I mean, defense was decent. I mean, that was in the era where the defense was decent. Mm-hmm. We did Ohio State playing for Natties. We beat them on the road. We lost at home to them. Beat them on the road, right? We play up with good teams. I mean, Texas beat Alabama. We beat Texas. But at the same time, I don't count that as much because it's a rivalry game. But at the same time, it's all about the physicality of it. It's a physical game. We're going to compete week in and week out. The bigger thing for us, the bigger question is making sure we have the depth for injuries. We have that, we're fine. We'll be like everybody else in the conference.
Yeah. And again,
I don't disagree.
I don't see why, and Mo brings up, you're going to be surprised with Ole Miss and Tennessee and these guys. In what world would anybody ever, until this season, when you've got Oklahoma coming into the SEC, in what world would you have ever picked any of those three programs to beat Oklahoma on a given year?
Mm-hmm.
So
let me say this right here, and I'll close this topic out with saying this right here. I think SEC fans are going to be a little bit more surprised, or they're going to be shocked with how mature us OU fans are. I know we like to take jabs. Obviously, you guys saw the opening and all the rest of that stuff. Hey, got me, look, don't sue me. I'm just running the goodwill, right? But regardless, though,
so
what I'm trying to say is this right here, is that I think they're going to be surprised with how mature we are, because to give us 6-7 games, that's what we're going to win. No, we're better than that. We know that our roster is better than that. We look at our schedule and we say, hey, as good as these teams are, there are some that have caught lightning in a bottle, 2, or hitting the reset button, and 3, we don't know really what they have. So we're going to have to see. And you're already counting us out in the LSU game, and that's 12 games away still by the look of my clock, right?
Yep.
So I think they're going to be surprised with that. And then also, like I said, look, as an OU fan, I'm mature enough to say I already pencil in one game, just like Coop said, one game during the season. Me and my uncle, we go through the schedule and we're like, okay, which game is it that we're going to lose? Because it's going to be some that we lose to somebody we have no business. Is it Iowa State, K-State, or is it Texas Tech, right? We got to go to Texas Tech this year. We got to go to – it's just we already penciled that in. We know there's one game that's just going to be that dud game for us where we're not going to play good football. So, I just think that we're trying to find that happy medium, but nobody in the SEC is trying to help us find that happy medium. They're just trying to tell us you're not good and you're not going to be good. You're not physical. You're new coach and this and that. And I'm like, hey, Texas is over there. Texas already had Sarkisian is the second best coach in the SEC already, and after having his first 10+ win season as a head coach. They lost 11 players, and that's supposed to. I'm like, look, y'all got the wrong people. OU people are just like, hey, let us live. We want to be happy that we're in the SEC, but yeah, I digress. But yeah, no. We'll keep it moving to the last topic, the revenue sharing and everything. We just hired a former executive or analyst or whatnot from the Philadelphia Eagles, Jake Rosenberg. Jay, enlighten us about this. Is this a good hire? Is this a good thing? What's this revenue sharing or whatnot? What's going on? What's the 411?
Yeah, it's smart to have someone that understands how salary cap works and stuff and work for the organization as one chips, right? That's really, 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 really smart. And so Oklahoma's bringing him in, and he's going to basically just kind of help consult around what Oklahoma should do and how they should play the game, because when the revenue sharing piece kicks in, which will be next season, unless we go into the Super League, teams can allot up to $20 million of their TV rev and spend it, on, players and stuff. So they'll probably split it 10 and 10 million, for, football, 10 million to all the other sports, right? That's the anticipation there. And still have an NIL in place to be able to even, supplement with that. But this 10 million is going to allow them to, they're going to be writing checks to these players to play ball. And so you got to be able to manage it. And that's why you saw Curtis Lofton coming in as the new general manager. Bama has theirs, which is Courtney Morgan, who's a beast of a GM and guy that's a, quote unquote player personnel person. He was running things at Michigan, which helped build that team that won that natty, right? He was there at Michigan first, and DeBoer snatched him up and got him to come to Washington with him for those 2 years. But the blueprint was set from Michigan, and that's how Michigan's had all the monsters that are all about pushing weight around. And then from there, followed him over to Bama, and Bama, they got the dude that's the dude. So that's what Oklahoma's looking at, is with Curtis Lofton being the GM, bringing in that consultant, the former Eagles guy, to help kind of help him understand how to navigate those waters, yeah, it's gonna be. And Boomer's right. It's 22 million is what's going to be available of the TV rev that's going to come through. And shoot, you got to be able to budget it right, decide which players need to get paid it, who gets the most of the cap, who gets least of the cap. You gotta play that, and then also play the NIL game. So I think it's going to be a big change to the game, which I'm very glad we're finally get to that point. Kids should be making money. They deserved it a long time ago. Let's go for it.
No, I think it's here's a good comment right here. Chris E. He says Eagles are great with managing cap space. Great hire by OU. Hopefully that is definitely true. I would say, hey, look, I'm all in favor of it. I think it's cool. It's really exciting. It's kind of the wild, wild west. Do it early before the NCAA or anybody tries to come and basically like compound it or whatnot. But I think this is what they're moving towards. And I think this is a sign that, hey, NCAA, y'all are losing grip on it. So, but no, I mean, I think it's a great hire. I think you bring and keeping Curtis Lofton involved in it or whatnot. Those OU players, that OU DNA or whatnot, having a guy there that can learn under the guy eventually, if and he could succeed in that role himself, right? So it's just cool, man. It's a lot of cool stuff that's going on at OU right now. It's really innovative as well. Not a lot of teams have this. They have people in roles similar to this, but not defined like this. So OU, again, is getting ahead of the curve. And so that's what I'm most excited about with it. But, the money, all the rest of these things and everything, and then having the one Oklahoma?
Yep, that is the one collective now. They eliminated all the other ones. They consolidate into one place, which is smart.
Yeah.
That way, what you actually have available, and players ain't got to go to like 4 or 5 different sources to get cash.
I saw on Orange Blood. Shout out to my uncle for sending me the clips. But I saw on Orange Bloods they were talking about, and they were like, "I can't believe Oklahoma is doing this before Texas, or doing this and doing that."
Yeah.
Somebody even got on there and said, well, they're doing it because they're $1 million in debt. And I'm just like, here we go. Here we go. Jason, I'll let you go, bro.
I mean, I was actually, what's the question that you have? Because I was actually reading some of the ones.
Oh, just basically just talking about this whole revenue sharing thing, like, your thoughts about it.
Oh, no, I love what they've been doing.
And the hire as well. Sorry about that.
Absolutely. And I think that that was huge, but I think that they're showing at Oklahoma that they're ahead of the curve on a lot of that stuff, kind of like what you and Jay were saying. So to me, I'm excited about the one Oklahoma deal. I think that they're kind of showing that, early on I was kind of concerned about that is if that's going to be helpful for the players as much as it might be helpful for the school. But I think that from what we're seeing, I think it's going to be a model that you're probably going to see all around the country. So for them to be first to do that, I like it. I'm kind of with you guys on this anyway. I don't have a problem with paying players or any of that kind of stuff. I think you find the best way to go about it and be efficient with it and move forward, because all this kicking and screaming stuff is stupid anyway.
It's funny because it's only the adults doing it. Like, kids haven't said a word. They're just taking advantage of what's in front of them, and everybody's mad that the kids are being greedy. Wait, the adults are giving it to them. What are we doing?
Because we hear about the kids who are getting these ridiculous NIL deals, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But we don't hear enough about the kids who get the average NIL deal, which is a franchise McDonald's paying them to come and take a picture with a Big Mac for $2,000. The average NIL deal that I've worked on plenty of times, to where we have kids just come and sign an autograph memorabilia for $2,500, $5,000. It's a lot of money, but nothing just to go crazy about. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
yeah.
No, I mean, it's the grown-ups that are, I mean, stop pocket watching.
It always has been the grown-ups that have been screwing it up. You know what I mean? It's the mess that they're in or have been in has been due to people that are, have a lot more seasoning on them. So it's, a little weird to me that the way that it's gone. But I think that in the end, what I was getting at was that I love the way that they've, instead of being reactive, it looks like Oklahoma's being proactive. So, move forward and doing all that stuff. I think a lot of people would have been concerned early on about Brent Venables embracing NIL or any of that kind of stuff with the portal. And I think it's clear that he is not Dabble Sweeney when it comes to that stuff. So I'm excited about where they're headed. And I think it was a great hire, man. I'm kind of like a lot of these. I'm ready for the freaking season to start so we can stop talking about dumb stuff like this.
Exactly. So with that being said, we've been on here for about an hour plus, so we're going to go ahead and close it out. Jason, thank you guys as always for coming on with me on the show. Go ahead and tell everybody where they can find you guys at. You already know the Horns Down podcast.
I know the usual. Unfair Sports. Find me here on YouTube as well as whatever podcast I download and listen to. It's good kicking it.
Hold on. What about the other one that you're on? Come on. Sooner or Later Sports is the recruiting channel. We do that. Also over at Locked On Sooners. Yeah. Just about everywhere. I'm working like 40 jobs right now. So we're just trying to get this to grow to where we can get everybody to eat. That's what we got to do, man. Got to start somewhere. So that's the biggest.
I haven't been able to get an opportunity to say this just yet, but I wanted to say shout out to Jay though for working with Locked On Sooners. Now that was a smart move by our boy John over there to bring Jay aboard. Excited for you and where you're headed, brother. Appreciate
it, man. It's gonna open up some doors for all of us, man. In time, I gotta get in there and infiltrate. Once I get in there, I can set the virus in there, and I can start spreading us around. Yeah, we can start infiltrating all of these big markets, right? So do the big things.
Absolutely.
Jason
Watkins from Hall of Fame College Football with Jason and the coach. That's at CFB-pod. Hey, you guys should be already tapping in with us in the mornings, man. We're going 3 days a week on Rise and Shine College Football and putting out a bunch of content at night as well. Hey, man, I mean, it's time to crank it up and get ready to go. And like I said, I was very happy about seeing what Teddy had to say yesterday. I knew it was going to set the rest of the SEC on fire. So we'll have plenty to talk about that in the morning on Rise and Shine College Football.
Yeah, I was like, if we could keep Teddy away from it, we may be okay. But I was scrolling through Twitter and I saw Jay had retweeted. I was like, oh God, really? I was like, who let this get to him? Who let this? But no, hey, be on the lookout as well. Jason and I will be doing our official post-game instant reactions and everything, good or bad, like we did last year, which was
we'll get back on track with all of that stuff. It's gonna be fun.
That yeah. OU, what was it? Kansas and O State. Me and Jason Jason had to calm me down. I can't do this shit. But hey, look, that was another episode of the Horns Down podcast. We'll be back, guys. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe, do all of that, both channels, all the rest of that stuff. Fellas, we inching close to getting to 1,000, which is crazy.
Get in there. Let's go. Get
grinding. We've been grinding over here. So yeah, y'all, hey, help the channel out. We're trying to grow it, get to 1,000. Once we get to that, we're gonna take off even more. But with that being said, people, we out.